Hi, how you guys doing today? My name is Tina. I'm one of the owners of Dragontopia. We're located on the East Coast. We have been, it's a family project, and we have been reptile lovers for, well, forever, but we just got into owning and caring for and loving bearded dragons for about 2 years. We are not in the stages of breeding yet, but we're well on our way to doing so. I'd like to share some of the stuff from the past 2 years, things that we've learned as new bearded dragon owners in the first 2 years of what to expect, some of how to set up a cage. Yeah, just some simple stuff. So hope you like it, and sorry I don't have a cameraman, so it's just me. Anyway, to start, behind me is just a few of our vivariums or cages. It's all bearded dragons on this side of the reptile room. There's another area of the reptile room that is uromastyx, but that's a later video and completely different setup. Bearded dragons in general, I've seen a lot online saying that a 40-gallon breeder tank is the minimum. It is really suggested to have a little bit bigger than that. A lot of people in the US do say 40-gallon breeder is the minimum. To each their own. You can do your own research about what size. These particular tanks behind me are custom made by us. We don't sell them, we just make them for ourselves. They are 4 by 2 by 2 roughly. 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot. That being said, ours are made of melamine. It can be purchased at a local hardware store. Pretty much everything in the tank can be purchased either on one of the bigger websites or a local hardware store or your local, Walmart. But to review some of the basics, that's the size. The only thing I think that's pretty custom to our cages is the glass. We have a company that does our glass doors for us. It's not tempered glass, but it's it's an 1/8 inch thick glass. It's still pretty sturdy. Haven't had one break yet. So that still has to come. Anyway, the basics, I already went through the sizes. There's heating and lighting that is absolutely required for bearded dragons. They need UVB and they need heat. These are the two most important things. You have a cool side of the tank and a hot side of the tank. This can be achieved with the proper heating and lighting. You can choose either side, right side, left side, but you want one side to be your hot side, one side to be your cool side. Your hot side needs to be heated, and everyone can do their own setup. You don't have to set up like me, but this is just a guideline. I use, some people use the really expensive reptile bulb that you can get in, some of the pet stores or even online. Some of the reptile bulbs, they're very expensive. They're much more expensive than what I use, and I know a lot of people actually use this type. Depending on the size cage that you have, you may need to try a couple different bulbs before you get the right temperatures. I did a whole lot of different bulbs before I found the one that works for me. So with my cage being melamine, made of melamine, and 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot, I use this. I get it at the local store. It's a 65 watt. It is a halogen. They replace them every couple months. It's just, you see that one of them blows out, you replace it, and I buy them in bulk, just like this, and they're very inexpensive. So you don't have to get the expensive reptile bulbs. Definitely stay away from any kind of colored bulb. You do not want a red or blue or purple or fuchsia colored bulb. It is not good for the bearded dragon's vision and their eyesight. So stick with just clear white. The other bulb in here is a tube UVB light. There are other types of UVB bulbs out there, but there is a lot of research and recommendations that tube UVB is the best for UVB exposure to your bearded dragon. I personally use a 24 inch that's diagonally placed in the cage. So it's a 24-inch tube light. It is a 10.0 T8 bulb. So T8 is a little bit fatter tube. There is T5, which is a little bit skinnier tube. It's a higher output. If you have a type of cage or vivarium that you light from above or on top of a screen, you do need a higher UVB, suggested a T5 possibly, with a higher UVB rating than what I use. I use mine as inside of the tank. There is no screen between the bulb and the dragon. This is a 10.0 T8 Reptisun. If you want to see a closer up picture, this is the tube lighting, and it's just in this light fixture that was bought at a local big store, kind of like a Walmart. You can order these online. They come in all different sizes. And then if you want to see the heat bulb, this is the heat bulb that I use. This is that 65 watt halogen light. And if you can see how it is hooked up, it's hooked to a porcelain base that can be bought at a local hardware store. The cord and wiring was also purchased at a local hardware store, put through a hole in the back of the tank, so everything is plugged up behind the tank, as well as the vents that you see in the back for good airflow. That's to just help keep it so it's not so stagnant. So humidity is another thing. You don't want your humidity in your tank to be very high. You want your humidity between 30 and 40%, give or take. And my house actually keeps quite close to that. The house is above that, but with the heat, mine's right in there. I don't consistently monitor it. It's suggested to consistently monitor the humidity, but I've just personally come up with a perfect heating system that I don't need to as closely monitor it as when I first started. But talking about temperatures, once we get the bulbs in here correctly, and I got the right heat going, I tested with an infrared temperature gun. And that I check every day, every single day I check the temperatures. On one side of the tank is our heat, and I want the basking spotlight to be about 110 to 115. I do find a couple hot spots every once in a while that are 120, but then there's dimmers that you can use if it's a little too hot. Also, depending on the time of year, if it's winter, if it's summer, it could be a little bit hotter. And you may need to use a dimmer to calm the lights down a little bit. But about 110 to 115 on my hot side, which is your basking. And then because it's a 4-foot long tank, there is a gradient from the hot side all the way down to the cool side down here, which is about 80 during the day, 75 maybe at the, depending on what time of day it is. Obviously afternoon time when it's been on all day long, that's the hottest. We keep, everything is on a timer. It's 12 hours of daylight. In the summertime, it's 12 hours of sunlight. So it's on for, and you can change it. You can do it from, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 7 to 9 or whatever you want to do. But it's about 12 hours of sunlight. And then the rest of it is nighttime for the rest of it. And it's on a timer and everything turns off. Your heat light, your UVB light. It is a dark tank. This room is completely pitch black at nighttime. There is no red light, there's no night light. It is nighttime, and they truly go to sleep. They sleep very deeply. They love their sleep. They sleep in weird positions. They sleep in weird little crevices, but that is what they want, and that's what they love. So dark at night. I do not use a ceramic heater, but if your house does drop below 65 degrees, for any reason, maybe that particular room or it's the basement, if it drops below 65 degrees at nighttime, or if it's the middle of winter, you really do need a ceramic heater in there. It is not a light bulb. It's in the shape of a light bulb, but it is a ceramic heater. This will, you may need another hookup here for your ceramic heater. and then put that on a timer as well. But it's only if your temperatures go below 65 degrees. If your tank stays above 65 degrees overnight, you're pretty much good, and you just don't need one of those. They sleep anyway at night. They're not active. They're not trying to run around and look for anything. They're not hunting. They're not eating. They're not doing anything but sleeping. Your lights come on by timer in the morning, and they eventually will slowly wake up, and they come over to their heat source and warm up for the day. Once they fully warm up for the day, they're ready to eat. In my tanks are very, very, very simple. I have many bearded dragons. I do not use any kind of substrate in my vivariums. None of my bearded dragon vivariums have any kind of substrate. You can use any kind of paper towel, newspaper. Some people use a reptile carpet. You just don't want loose substrate when they're babies, until they kind of get used to things. You really want to closely monitor the babies. So it's suggested to stick with no loose substrate when they're babies. There's lots of research out there that as they get bigger, you can have a loose substrate, but it takes a lot of research, great husbandry of the cage and vivarium to get to that point. New bearded dragon owners, it's suggested to stick with simple. My cages are actually very simple because I have many cages to clean. They have everything that they could possibly want in a cage. Temperature, they have daily, the foods, which is a whole nother video. But I have a tile in there for them to kind of pancake out on if they want that under the heat light. I have a climbing branch. I have a hide for them that they use quite frequently, that they also go bask on top of, as well as get under when they want to get away from the UVB and heat. They go under the hide. Some of the cages I use, you can kind of see here in the distance, there is a dish in the center. The corner has some, today is calcium powder. That's where we would put the insects and dust them with some calcium powder, a couple times a week. Calcium is important for their UVB intake and to have strong, healthy bones. They need their calcium, their D3, and they need their UVB. Absolutely required. This is just a very, very basic of what a vivarium needs. There's very specific, some differences. You can do a glass aquarium, but it does not hold heat as well. It also has a reflection in the glass, so sometimes can stress them out. Every bearded dragon is a little bit different. Some do absolutely fantastic in a glass aquarium. Lots do. And it's probably the most commonly used type of vivarium. And people work it to their own animals. This is just a suggestion. This is just how I do it. But I did want to touch on some of the basics that I have with my bearded dragons to keep them as healthy as possible. So I have lots of other videos to come and lots of information to share. So I hope you follow and check out some of my other videos. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments, and I'll take care of it from there. Just keep an eye out for other videos. Thanks. Bye.